Hey, Rob. Uh, Last year I worked on set with your co-star from Good Time, Buddy Duress. I was wondering if you had any unique experiences working with him.
Yeah, Buddy's the best. I mean, initially in Good Time we were supposed to play brothers that in the first draft of the script, and I thought he was so good in Heaven Knows What, and I was like, yeah, I think he's just such a kind of like naturally gifted actor, like, and he was great, like really, really, really good. It was kind of. It's one of those things where it's kind of why I wanted to work with the Safdie as well. In the same way, working with, I mean, I guess he'd already done that one movie, but he still had that kind of aspect of, sort of like, you know, he'd only done one movie, so he wasn't seeing himself as a full professional actor at the time. I mean, he definitely is now. He's kind of realized what his talent is now, but I know I sort of love doing scenes with someone like. I remember doing the big end scene with him in Good Time, and I think it was the end scene, and we'd be arguing about a character thing, and he'd be like, "No, I wouldn't do that," and it's like, "Well, yeah, it's not you though." It's like, "Fuck that." Okay, it's like I wouldn't do it, and I'm like, and it's kind of it's like amazing just to see like, and there's no delineation between the character, and I was like, wow. Because it isn't him, like that part, like, but he would fully claim it. It was really, it was a really fun person to work with.
Yeah. Just sort of jumping off from that. I mean, the movie has, you know, it shows a lot of things that might happen in a situation like this. I mean, Claire, was there any sort of boundary you were afraid to cross at any point in terms of what you would show, or? No?
This is a question.
Oh, for you. Sorry, yeah.
So could you repeat it?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to connect it to Robert.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I was just because Robert's character does some interesting things. A lot of characters do some interesting things in the movie. I was just curious. You know, there's a lot of taboo behavior in the movie. I was curious if there's any sort of boundary. You know, did you ever have any fear that you would kind of go too far, whatever that would mean, or you really wanted to?
No, because the taboo is somewhere in the story. It's not happening, you know. It's like something possible, you know. And I think it was always. That's why the film exists in a way, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Here we actually skipped over a person here in the second row. Yeah.
This is a question for Claire. As Rob said, sometimes you can't conjure up some of the situations as you did in High Life. So can you speak about your writing process?
Writing process?
Yes.
First of all, there must be something that happened before the writing process, like the in my room process, something that is suddenly few ideas or something I realize exists in my mind for such a time. It's probably something that could be a film. Doesn't have to be a film, but I have to experience on my own without writing, just to think about it. And then the writing process is when I'm more or less sure of myself about the project. Not sure the script is going to be easy to write, but that it's the good direction for me. And the writing process is normally it's really solid when at least one scene is believable for me, when I can see one scene. If it's just scenes, words, dialogue, description, and I have no vision of it, it's not something I can feel, then I know it's the wrong direction. I need at least one solid scene. I say, wow, this is it. This, I want to film this. And then I can go on to a next scene, you know. And sometimes that scene is not the opening scene. I remember in Annette and Bonnie, it was the last one, you know. But it has to be something solid. I said, wow, now we are talking. This is something, yes, I believe in that, you know. But then the process of writing, it's maybe messy with me. I don't have a... Sometimes I have a structure, sometimes it's a mood, sometimes it's almost a shape, you know, but it has to exist as a whole, and then I can go into scenes. Yeah. A shape is a good word for beginning a script, I guess, a sort of shape, you know.
And I mean, for High Life, was there an image that you had in mind that was like the first image that came to mind with the writing of the story?
Yeah, that's the beginning. The garden,
The garden.
baby, and screaming, and the father repairing the ship. This I knew it will never change. It was there for good. Of course, I knew the end also, but this was solid enough for me to never change it.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, another question, maybe in the back on the left there.
Right or wrong, you know, it's not
Yeah.
a question of being secure.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that scene because it's like a domestic scene, you know, remote.
This question's for Claire. I saw your film Vendredi Soir at BAM earlier this week, which I thought was excellent. And
Who's talking?
me here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, in the top left there. Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
See you.
So, and but from what I understand, that film was somewhat of a departure, at least maybe in the eyes of critics. I don't know if it was for you back then, but from what I can tell, I haven't seen High Life yet, but it seems that High Life is also a step in a different direction for you in some ways. And I'm curious if in the making of this film, and also now that it's been finished and it's being released, and there have been a number of retrospectives in this city particularly, how this film has made you reflect on sort of the span of your career and how far, if you feel you've come very far as a filmmaker and artist since that time before.
I have not completely understood, but more or less. But I have to say, and you tell me if I'm wrong in my answer. Friday night it's a strange thing. I was offered a script written by Jean Renoir, the French director, and it was the last script he wrote, and he did it for the memory of his father, the painter Renoir, and it took place before the First World War in Paris, like in 1910, something like that, and it's about a guy that is in his 30s, from a rich family. He has a wife and a child, but he's going twice a month or even maybe more to the brothel as something to do, you know. It's not the only one. It's like a way to live, you know. And he gets to that new place, and he meets with a prostitute, and he immediately fell in love with her. And so much in love that he decided to hire an apartment in the northern Paris, not in a very rich district, and ask her to live there and to be his wife there, you know. Although he was going in and out to his own family in a very nice district of Paris. And then he had told his wife he would go for a month or so, you know. And after a month, he told this prostitute. Thank you very much. It was great. Thank you. Now I have to go back to my family. And she take a knife and, you know.
This is what happened to Renoir? No.
No, he was inspired by one of the model of his father.
Oh, okay.
Because his father was painting a prostitute, you know. And this was the script, the story. And it was very beautiful. He wrote it, Jean Renoir wrote it for Jeanne Moreau. And it was extremely beautiful. And Jeanne Moreau wanted to direct it, and then she felt she could not. And I start working on that project. If you tell me if I'm too long. Yeah?
No, this is a great story. I mean,
and I start working on the project, and then I realize it. Of course, it has to be a period film before the First World War, with a carriage, horse, and suddenly it was a moment of my life. I said, "Oh no! I can't do a period film in this moment of my life. This story is great, but I cannot be that wide, with a lot of horses and private street and wardrobe and no. I was not sure I could go at that moment. Some other moment of my life I could have, but not at that moment. I was working with, I had a friend, she was a writer, a very great writer. And I was in a cafe with her and I said, you know, I'm sorry to say, but it's it's a great script. I can't do it. I'm not going to ride horses, carriage and stuff and all this. No, it's not for me now. And she said, oh, but Claire, what do you want to do then? I said, well, I don't know, the minimum, small, very small. She said, small like what? I said, just a man and a woman in a car, today. She said, really? I said, yes, nothing else. And she said, mm-hmm. And the next day she wrote the
treatment or something?
The treatment of her next novel she was going to publish. And it was a night of strike in Paris where a woman was driving and meeting a man, you know. So it takes place in a car between a man and a woman. I read it and the next day I said, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. Exactly that, nothing else. Just to be in a car with a man and a woman. And that's what we did. And I don't know if it's a great film, but me, I felt so thrilled. Not that I didn't like Jean Renoir's script, it was so beautiful. But it was not, you know, also the way she plunged the knife in her stomach in front of him. I was not strong enough at that time of my life to do that, you know, as opposed to Friday Night. And also Friday Night was great for me because I could use a woman who was a comedian and a director, not an actress, and someone I admire a lot and I love a lot, you know. So it was a combination of happiness for me. Is it a good answer for you? No, I was. So, yeah. I'm asking because I hardly understand your question.
Yeah, I think it answered many questions, and we're all. Yeah, it was a great answer. Yeah, but I think we're actually coming to the end of our time, unfortunately, here. But just as a kind of a closing question, I mean, what are you going to be doing next? Are you going to take a break? Are you working on a new script, or for each of you?
I am trying to finish a script, and I will do location scouting for a film that is, if it's always something I wanted to do for a long time, adapt a book written by Dennis Johnson. And it happened that Dennis Johnson died while we were shooting in Köln.
Wow.
Yeah, and I told Robert about it, yeah.
Wow.
And I hope Robert will be in it.
Well, so there we go. Let's make it happen. And Robert, what are you jetting off to next?
It is not going to plunge a knife in his stomach.
I'm about to start this Christopher Nolan movie in like a month or something.
Okay.
It's massive
Massive.
thing.
Massive and top secret.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, that's all the time we have. Before
And
we,
it's small and not top secret.
but fantastic. Well, thank you both so much.
Be a French director.
We cannot end on that note. I think it's wonderful to be a French director, to have your films, and thank you both so much for this.
Thank you.